I posted this one earlier on the blog. I'll stick the number up here. It's a scheduling technique that I'm trying out, and I'm calling it Be a Better Human. And that isn't some lofty goal. It doesn't mean you have to go and wash a pensioner's car or anything like that. It's the realization that there was this whole class of tasks. So I'm recording a new course for my JDU, Johnny.Decimal University, on task and project management. It's how I manage tasks and projects using my system. And that caused me to look really deeply at my tasks and how I was doing things. And a certain type of task jumped out. And it's the type of thing that you want to do. That's why you wrote it down in your task system. And that you ought to do, but you just never actually do. The example I'm using is that my bestie sent a group message to me and a bunch of people saying, hey, would you mind leaving us a Google review of our new photography studio? Which is a lovely thing. And I said, of course, that's great. I'll do that. And I stuck that in my to-do system and then looked at it with increasing guilt for about 3 weeks until I realized, unless I do something about this, I'm never actually going to do it. And now here's the most bleeding obvious advice you've ever got in your life, which is that unless you allocate some time to do these things, you won't do these things. Nothing happens out of time. Time isn't magic. You're not magic. And so what I'm doing is I'm just putting some calendar time every morning. I'll explain why in the course. And I'm calling it Be a Better Human. And I'm doing these tasks that unless I did them in this allocated time, I wouldn't do them. And it feels better. I did the thing for my bestie. This morning, I spent 45 minutes doing a boring chore, which was writing up where some of our payments go through Stripe and PayPal and stuff, right? Really boring. But every time Lucy asks me about that, I go, oh, I can't remember how that works. And I think I should write that up. And for months and months, I've thought I should write that up, and I never have. And I did it this morning in Be a Better Human time. And you know what? I feel better. Me and Lucy are on a trip, and for various reasons, I want to keep all the hotel receipts and the logs of where we were and reservations and how much it cost and all that stuff. I might need to prove this in the future. Tax purposes, I might need to do some sort of security clearance and tell people where I was on certain days, so it's important to me to have all of this tracked. So the Life Admin system has got this space for long trips that's built into the system, and we are on just one single very long trip as far as I'm concerned, so I'm tracking all of that under a single ID, which is 1553, Juicy's World Tour. Now let's reinforce how we would actually find that ID. Let's pretend I didn't just remember the number. So I'm going to go to my personal system JDEX, and I use Bear for this. And let's do this the naive way. Let's just do this the stupid way, which is to just search our whole JDEX for World Tour, because that's what I know I call this thing. If you were going to Japan, you might search for Japan. Now that brought up a whole bunch of other stuff, which in fairness I've constructed for the purposes of this video, but the idea is that you should know that searching for World Tour or searching for any single word as the title of one of your notes might bring up a whole bunch of stuff. And what we're doing there is we're not using the system properly, because we know, and if we don't know or remember, we can just see it down in our sidebar there, that all of our travel stuff is in category 15. And think about this. I don't even have to click over on category 15. I know that all of my notes in category 15 start with the number 15, and then they start 15 decimal. So what I do in my Bear search, and by the way, that's Command O in Bear, will bring up this little quick switcher for you, so you don't even have to touch the mouse. This is lovely. Command O, and typing 15 dot instantly narrows the search just to that travel category. And now I can type World Tour, and there it is. That's the only thing. This works in any notes app. You do need, though, that's why this is a Johnny.Decimal trick, you need this ID to work, because what we're doing is we're using this number, as we've seen in the previous videos, to instantly filter out from the whole world and everything in it to this area, to this category, to this ID. Typing 15 dot instantly filters all of our notes to just this category. It's a trick that works all over the place. So there you go. That's how I find this trip. Next time I'm going to show you exactly where I store that and how I'm saving its receipts and all that sort of stuff. Hey, just a little side note, by the way, in case you don't know me and you're thinking, who's this fancy guy with his worldwide trip? No, me and Lucy moved out of Australia because, wow, it's expensive there. And I'm happy to report that Morioka in Japan is in fact substantially cheaper than Canberra in Australia. A common confusion in the Johnny.Decimal world is that you've got this index of your stuff, your JDEX, and so in Life Admin, that's all of your personal records and your receipts and your computer stuff and your travel and so on. And then if you've got personal knowledge management, you've also got this other world of PKM to maintain. And That's the wrong way to think about it. These two aren't different things. There's only one thing in your life, and it is your Johnny.Decimal system. So if you've got some personal knowledge that you want to manage, you don't put it somewhere else. That's just what your JDEX is for. And if you say, well, what if my JDEX doesn't already have a place for that? Well, just create one. That's why you need to create yourself some new areas and categories in ID sometimes. Create a place for the thing whose knowledge you'd like to store. Because an ID in your JDEX just represents some notion of something in your life. Like, think of it like if you walked around all day with some futuristic badge on that said, hi, I'm Johnny and I'm currently doing, then there'd be some ID in your system that would always be able to represent the thing that you're doing now. And so using this highly structured system, we've turned this vague notion of PKM, where people worry about how to structure this data. You've already got a structure. Put it in your Johnny.Decimal system.